right, another year, another round of artistic grants, and yet another absurd waste of your money. Here's just a sample of the stupidity your taxes are paying for. A cabaret artist who created a so-called bum puppet show featuring a drawing of the Prime Minister on their backside. Another, a Chinese-Australian poet who writes on toilet rolls about bodily fluids. And a feminist artist who uses knitting to tell histories of queer representation. It follows recent grants, you'll remember this, an artist using red wool to mimic her menstrual cycle, involving her genitals as well, and an artwork that asked audiences to lie down next to mushrooms and cover their eyes with bags of soil. These latest funding grants are from the Federal Government's Australia Council, and it's exposed 8 artists given tens of thousands of dollars in taxpayer funding to support their wacky performances at a time when most of us will know a local charity or a men's shared baby, SES at least, who could surely need that sort of money. For her reaction on this ideologically driven nonsense, let's bring in the director of the IPA's Foundations of Western Civilisation program, Dr. Bella de Brera. Well, thank you, Bella. You're always given the unenviable task of going through the entrails of these funding grants, but it's our money. So how on earth is this still going on?
That's a very good question. I look at these things and I sort of don't know whether to laugh or cry, but really it is actually cry. You mentioned the struggle that everyone's been having over the last 2 years. And the fact that this coalition government has been in power for 8.5 years and it is still giving away thousands of taxpayers' dollars to these projects that are ideologically driven, they're funny, but not really meaning to be funny. We find them funny, but they don't. They're political, that we've got this scatological sort of, if you can call it, humour. And it's a really bad indictment on the current government. And I think Australians need to be asking questions. They need to be asking, why are our taxes still being spent on this kind of thing? And, the arts has been struggling. In the last 2 years, last year, the Opera Australia had to sell its warehouse for its costumes. It had to sell props for $50 million to bail itself out. The Tamworth Music Festival has been cancelled 2 years in a row. And the Sydney Symphony Orchestra is only just, getting by the skin of its teeth. This is just so scandalous.
And the sad thing is tonight, I can't even show my audience pictures of this bum puppet. I mean, it's got someone lying on the ground and their backside cheeks are here and they've drawn the Prime Minister's face and they must make their backside move to make it a puppet. I can't even put that to air because it's so offensive, but it's not offensive enough to have my viewers' money put in to support this artist. I mean, you've got another artist, a queer feminist collaboration, they call it, tweeting praise about Chris Minns, the New South Wales Labor leader, and Anthony Albanese. I mean, this is highly partisan stuff.
Yeah, and look, they're criticising the people that are funding them. So, they can't have it both ways. If they were really principled, they could still do this. Look, if they want to draw faces of the Prime Minister on their backsides and do this bum puppeteering, they're welcome to. If they want to write poetry on toilet paper, that's fine. Just don't do it at our expense. And, and we do have to ask, as I said earlier, why is the coalition still funding artists, in inverted commas, who make
well, just on that, Bella, just on that.
The coalition.
So where's the Minister? The Minister's Paul Fletcher. He's a known moderate in New South Wales Liberal, obviously in the federal parliament. Where's he on all this?
Well, we'll find out tomorrow because he's going to be interviewed by Ben Fordham. So I can't answer that question for you, but if you tune in tomorrow, hopefully we get an answer. It will be very difficult to explain why these things are still being funded. So I'm going to be very tuning in.
I'll tell you what, it's terrible. It happens every single year. We rail against it and nothing seems to happen. And you can only imagine how bad it will be if Albanese gets into the lodge in the middle of the year. Bella de Brera, thank you for your time.